The year is 1947. The Iron Curtain has fallen, casting a long, dark shadow across Eastern Europe. Whispers travel on the icy wind, tales of unspeakable horrors committed within the concrete walls of Soviet gulags. One such whisper tells of a chilling experiment, a descent into the darkest recesses of the human mind. The Russian sleep experiment. The experiment, shrouded in secrecy, took place in a remote, fortified facility. 5 prisoners of war, deemed enemies of the state, were chosen as subjects. Their crime? A meaningless label, easily assigned and impossible to refute. The true purpose of their imprisonment: to serve as human guinea pigs in a twisted game of scientific curiosity. The prisoners, hardened by years of suffering, were presented with a choice: endure the brutal conditions of the Gulag indefinitely, or participate in a scientific experiment. The reward for their cooperation? Freedom, a chance to escape the cold, unforgiving grasp of the Soviet regime. The experiment, they were told, was simple. They would be deprived of sleep for 30 days, a small price to pay for the sweet taste of liberty. A specially designed chamber was constructed, a sealed environment where every breath, every heartbeat, every twitch and murmur could be monitored. The chamber was filled with an experimental gas, a stimulant designed to keep the prisoners awake, to push them beyond the limits of human endurance. At first, the prisoners clung to the hope of freedom, their resolve fueled by the promise of a life beyond the barbed wire fences. Days turned into nights, marked only by the relentless hum of the ventilation system and the scratching of pencils on notepads as the researchers meticulously documented every change in the prisoners' behavior. The early days brought predictable signs of sleep deprivation, irritability, fatigue, hallucinations. Yet, as the experiment progressed, a sinister transformation began to take hold. The prisoners became increasingly paranoid, their conversations devolving into whispered conspiracies and accusations. They turned on each other, their bonds of camaraderie shattered by the insidious effects of sleep deprivation. The researchers watched in morbid fascination as the men, once proud and defiant, descended into a living nightmare. By day 9, the chamber was a cacophony of madness. The prisoners' screams, fueled by unimaginable terror, echoed through the observation room, each shriek a nail hammered into the coffin of their sanity. They tore at their own flesh, desperate to escape the horrors that plagued their sleep-deprived minds, oblivious to the blood that stained their tattered clothes and the cold concrete floor. The researchers, once driven by scientific curiosity, now found themselves wrestling with the monstrous consequences of their ambition. The experiment had spiraled out of control, transforming from a study on sleep deprivation into a horrifying spectacle of human suffering. As the days bled into one another, the prisoners' screams ceased. An eerie silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the rasping breaths of the subjects and the frantic scribbling of the researchers' pens. The silence was more unsettling than the screams, a chilling testament to the complete psychological breakdown of the prisoners. They had retreated into themselves, their minds shattered, their humanity extinguished. On day 15, a decision was made. The experiment had gone too far. The gas, the researchers reasoned, had become a curse, twisting the prisoners into something less than human. It was time to end the nightmare. With trembling hands, they shut off the flow of the stimulant, hoping to alleviate the prisoners' suffering and salvage what remained of their sanity. A team of soldiers, heavily armed and their faces hidden behind gas masks, cautiously entered the chamber. The sight that greeted them was nothing short of horrific. The prisoners, their bodies mutilated and covered in their own waste, were no longer recognizable as human. They thrashed and convulsed on the floor, their eyes wide and vacant, their voices hoarse from screaming. They begged for the gas, pleading for the very substance that had poisoned their minds. The soldiers attempted to restrain the prisoners, to sedate them, to bring them back from the brink of madness. But the prisoners were imbued with an unnatural strength, a terrifying resilience to pain. They fought back with a ferocity born of desperation, their screams echoing through the chamber, a chilling testament to the horrors that lay dormant within the human psyche. To be continued.